In this video, you're going to learn how to model, texture, and light a teacup inside of Cinema 4D. This will be a fun one. Hey everybody, it's Nick again from Greyscalegorilla, helping you make better renders in less time. Now, before we get started today, I wanted to remind you, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're posting a lot of new stuff on our YouTube channel. We'd love to make sure that you get it. Also, check out our Intro to Cinema 4D series if you haven't already. Just check the comments in the description below. All the links will be there. All right, let's get into today's video. It's a recording from an Ask GSG. And what that is a video series we have where people ask live questions all about how to make stuff in Cinema 4D. Now, this question came to us from Mario, who helps us a lot on the chat, and he was wondering how to make an image that looks like this. An image that's a teacup, that has glass, that has liquid inside of it, that has nice reflections. And so Chris and I break down from start to finish how to model, texture, add all the reflections and lighting to the scene to make this beautiful image. Now, if you've always wanted to learn how to make really good looking glass, transparent effects, liquids inside of Cinema 4D, you do not want to miss this tutorial. And now let's just get straight to it. Let's cut to the clip from this Ask GSG and you can start to model along with us. Enjoy it.
Hi there everybody, I'm Chris Schmidt. Here's Nick Campbell. Welcome to Ask GSG. We've got a question from the chat from Mario. He gave us this cool link to this 3D teacup, but it's just a beautiful illustration. Who made this? Peter Grom. Really cool. So I'm going to get to do a tiny little bit of modeling, and then Nick's going to have to spend a whole bunch of time doing textures and lighting and backgrounds and HDRs and all that. So
I already see some depth of field, friends.
So he's got the fun job. But let's go ahead and try and model this. Actually, this is pretty straightforward. Why don't we try and make it as similar as possible as far as the cup is concerned. There's some really cool details here. We don't get to do modeling too often, so why don't we go ahead and start with doing some lathes. I'm going to click my middle mouse button, look at this from a side view, which is always a good idea. Let's go ahead and model out the basics of our cup. I like using the Bezier spline. So let's see, what should our cup look like? I'm going to start on the inside of the cup. We're going to get a nice smooth curve heading upward. Now if I hold down the shift key, I can actually break my handle and I can pull that way down. And I did that because I want to be able to, and I'm gonna hit Alt, I never remember, Alt D. If you hit Alt D, you can hide your axis, and you see it was getting in my way here. Like I wanted to click right there, but I couldn't because my axis is in the way. Alt D, so remember that one. So now I can click and drag down, and I can see I make a nice tiny sharp angle there. And I can hold down shift and drag it really long again. And so cool, now we can go down to this lower part of the cup. I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit, but that's fine. And now I think we might even want to give this like a little bit of a rim. So I'm going to pull these down. These definitely are going to need a little bit of adjusting. But there we go, that's not too bad. I can grab these 2 points, and actually we got to do them individually. I can grab this one, zero it out, grab that one, zero it out. We want everything right at the center. And now this was a weird little, I need my axis back, so I hit Alt D again. I'm going to pull this over and up a little bit so we get this little nubby foot looking correct. I'm going to hit R for rotate and spin that up a little bit. Hit T for scale the point down. I'm just trying to get this cup to have a little bit more even thickness all the way along it. I'm going to grab this point and start shrinking it down. That went a long way to evening that out. This is nowhere near tall enough, so I'm going to pull this, pull that up. Maybe grab this one, T for scale, pull down. Grab this one, T for scale, pull out. Now the more variation there is in this thickness, the weirder the refraction is going to be. But could be good, could be bad. But that doesn't seem too bad there for the cup. At the same time, why don't we just go ahead and make the saucer spline as well, so we don't have to keep changing our angle. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Bezier again. Actually click off the object, let's make sure we're drawing a new one, and let's just draw the saucer. So I'm going to do a very similar thing, hide my axis, draw out the first point, draw out the second. Let's look at that lip. Looks like that we get nice little curves upward, and then goes down a little bit, and then goes way upward, and then goes down a little bit, and then we're going to go get this big swooping arc out here. Maybe a nice curve. I'm probably going to be adjusting those as well. Let's go ahead and pull this one out a little bit. And then I think it's going to be a similar thing down here. We're going to go ahead and just let this swoop past. And then let's get the another little foot going here. There we go. That should do that. zero these out again. We need those right zeroed out perfectly. I'm going to zoom in. Let's maybe just make these a little bit smoother. Nice little bump there. This one should be rotated. Get my axis back. Alt-D. Let's flatten that out. Now we get this nice smooth arc there. Those other ones are working pretty well. This is working. I think we might want to flatten that out just a little bit there. Thickness isn't too bad. I'm going to grab both these points, maybe rotate them down a little, and maybe pull them out a little. We might need to do some adjusting on these once we actually can see this as a model, but I think that's actually working pretty well. All right, so now what do? I'm going to hit my middle mouse button, go back to our 3D view, and now we need to get some actual geometry out of these guys. So we get to use the lathe object. So I'm going to just copy and paste it. We have two of them. Drop in one object, drop in the other object, and there we go. We've got our basic geometry going. The cup's pretty good. The saucer is definitely a little big. I'm going to go ahead and grab scale, go to model. My model should be centered correctly there, so I can just scale this whole thing down.
You can't. The problem with that is your little nubs are in scale, but it's just the wings that are too big.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and grab these guys, pull it down. I think this needs to go down and out.
I think it's smaller toward the cup, actually. The whole thing is...
Well, I want to make the cup a little wider as well, but yeah, let's go ahead. We can even do this from the 3D view. I just have to make sure I don't pull them forward or backwards by accident. And these little nubs need to come out as well. We want to see that detail.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
So I'm going to scale those down a little because they're a little big. I'm going to pull them out. It's a little hard to see what I'm looking at here when I have the lathe on itself, so I can turn that off, pull these out, rotate down. I think the basic idea is like this little nub should be just a little bit bigger than the foot of the cup, so it actually gets trapped in there properly. So that should work all right right there.
That looks great.
And we can pull that out, maybe scale that one up a little bit. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, there we go. A little bit more of a saucer thing going. And let's grab the cup and just do a quick adjustment on there. I think I actually might want to, I'm going to use the knife tool, hit K for knife. I've got my spline selected. I just drew two new points right here. And I can actually go and, that gave me the extra detail to be able to shape this a little bit better. Oop, I missed my second point. I want to make sure I kind of maintain this distance. Back to my 3D view so we can kind of visibly do this. Yeah, that's working pretty well. That's not bad. We got this arc is a little sharp there, but we can actually go into our lathe and we have a lot of control over the way our geometry is working. And for this model, we are going to want more segments around, so we can keep on increasing this, and it's going to make our geometry smoother. I'm going to go to something like 42, and then we can control how our points are distributed along the edges. And we can actually have a lot of control over that by going to something like uniform, and now we're going to get really smooth, even subdivisions all the way around. Might be a good idea for this. This probably isn't too important, but Nick's going to be spending a lot of time, so let's make the model look pretty. I'm going to take these little feet, and I'm going to maybe pull those out a little bit. Really shouldn't change the shape of the saucer. It's just giving the base a little bit bigger.
I would say thin it out a little bit, too, just so the saucer is a little more fragile.
Sure. So we're going to grab all the top points. Actually, I wanted the bottom point, so I'm just going to hit UI to invert my selection, and I can just pull these guys up. And now let's try and maintain a little bit of the thickness. You see the thickness right there? Let's try and match that on this bit just by pulling those a little bit closer so we get the kind of the little bit more dainty thing going.
And I would say, I think too, Chris, that the cup might be a little bit more fragile as well.
Yeah, this is pretty thick right now. So we can fix the cup really easily by just grabbing, we've only got 2 points on this top part, so it should be really straightforward of pulling those 2 points. Ooh, we do have 3. Grab that third one. Pull these down, and now that's kind of thinned out everything pretty well. And all we have to do is grab this one and thin it out just a little bit more. It looks like our arcs are getting really important here, so we got to be careful about the way our splines are lined up. And the different thicknesses are actually going to have a big effect on our refraction, so this is actually pretty important. That's looking pretty good though. A little more fragile, a little more even. Now we actually, what I might want to do just for because we gotta get the handle in there. I'm actually going to drop our subdivisions down again. On our uniform, so on our individual spawns. I'm going to go and kind of decrease this a little bit, and we're going to end up putting this in the hypernerb. Well, I guess we need enough. I want to do the handle really clean, so I'm actually going to just go to our cup, which I'm going to put on top because the cup's on top of the saucer. And I want less subdivisions because I kind of want that to be nearly square. I mean, if I went down to 1, that'd be really good, but now we're really losing our detail. So this is kind of a tough call here. Because once we hypernerb things, it gets really, really important. Oop, looks like I hit undo too many times. So sorry, getting a little bogged down here, but let's go ahead and grab that. Eventually, we'll be putting this in Hypernerve, so let's make sure that still looks good there, and it seems to work pretty well. Our subdivisions are pretty good there. So now, what I always do is I make a copy because I might not want that anymore. I'm gonna put it into a null and just hide the null. I usually even call it dead. So if we need to go back to this step, we can, but I'm gonna go ahead and make our lathe editable. And now I want to go to one of our sides, and one of these should be pretty even. We're going to do this one. So right here, you see the X is right on this line, so I'm going to grab that one. We're going to grab a couple of these polys. And let's see if that's pretty good. That's not bad. So that's going to be our handle there. And I'm going to hit the letter D for extrude, and I'm going to go ahead and extrude these guys out. And there's a couple things we do. We could put a sweep. We can merge all these really well. We just want to do it real quick, so I'm going to grab these, do those extrudes. Let's do one more quick extrude outward, and I'm just going to, once again, scale these down. Oop, I extruded twice. I'll make sure I don't do that. Do that all the time. If you accidentally click twice, you can get two extrudes, like a really tiny one on top of the other. But anyway, I'm just going to kind of rotate these guys and shrink them a little bit to get them into position to be curving around. Grab this guy, hit R for rotate, scale it down, move it over, and cool. Now we got the basics of the handle. I can just grab all those clusters, hit the letter B, bridge from that corner to this corner, boom, those get linked up. We might want to add one last subdivision in between these guys. I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to turn off my visible only so I can grab all the edges all the way around. MF is a shortcut for edge cut. I'm going to say apply. It gives us one little extra cut there. I'm going to re-grab the selection, deselect, deselect, and now I can kind of complete our little arc right there. The one last thing I noticed was our normals are inverted, so I'm going to select all my polygons, hit UR for invert normals, and now it's going to straighten those back out again. And now once this guy is in the Hypernerve, we should get a nice kind of clean arc on our cup handle there. We might even take that split second and kind of have it get that little arc upward. I'm going to grab that, deselect, deselect, and then we can go pinky out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's working pretty well. I mean, I guess that's a little thick. We could thin that out just by doing like a loop selection, loop, T for scale, scale in on the blue, grow, scale in. We can even go over here. We can't go too far because we're going to start changing the shape of the cup. But considering this would have been crafted by somebody, like you can actually get a little bit of that bulge. In fact, if we were going way out, we could maybe even take something like that and pull it out, like just because there'd be those imperfections. But let's not worry about doing that. And because these are double thick, if we hit iron, we can probably... if I hit MG, it's the iron tool. Now what's happening is it's really kind of squaring these out instead of being round because of the number of subdivisions. I had to have 2 segments per. So if I were to kind of do this ironing, I can shrink it down, and you see it starts rounding out instead of being so sharp. If we do that a couple times, it's going to get pretty smooth, and I should be able to hit T for scale it back up again to counter it, maybe pull it back up again to counter that. Now those are a little bit rounder.
Yeah, that's great.
And kind of transitions back into the square, which we could spend more time cleaning up, but we've already spent enough time on the modeling here, I think. Any one of these we can grab and scale and just tweak and tweak and tweak. Tweak forever if we wanted to, but that's looking pretty good. Yeah, that looks pretty smooth. We got 2 subdivisions on that. I'm going to leave it at that because that's quite a bit. I'm actually going to make a second subdivision surface. I'm going to just subdivide by 1, and we're going to throw this the saucer into it, so it's going to subdivide more. And you see we have relatively even count on both of those, so they should be both pretty much equally smooth.
Can you make me a liquid too, Chris?
Oh, yeah. That is a good idea. And let's make sure our cup and saucer are pretty much touching but not intersecting.
No touching.
Yeah, right about there. And then, of course, we need the liquid, which I completely forgot about. But we should be able to get that pretty easily by grabbing this cup. Actually, we can go back and grab the original lathe, which I'm glad I kept that copy because now we are going back to it.
Good thinking.
I'm going to pull it out. And now we can get this liquid really easily. I'm going to go to side view. And, in fact, we don't need to see any of these guys for a second. So now all we've got is our cup. But I'm going to go ahead and grab just that first point, the second point, and the third point, invert, delete everything else, and now all we have is this cutoff right here. And if I were to do something like use the knife tool, we don't want it all the way full. How much? Pretty full, not all the way. Let's go to right around there. I can delete that point, and that should pretty much fill the liquid. Now, I've heard, I think that they said this officially, is you want liquids to, like, intersect your glass slightly. So what we're going to do is just pull this down a little bit, and I'm going to grab these 2 points here. I'm going to pull them just a little bit over, just a couple ticks there, and then even scale that up just a little bit to get our curve. And let's go ahead and check out. Oh, that's a saucer. I should name these. So this one's the cup. The bup.
It's the bup. It's
Cup.
cool. Liquid.
Yeah, if we look at our cup, then we should see that this is intersecting the edge all the way around just a little bit. Should be. Oh, is it not going to... Yeah, it's not going to close because I need that point as well. So we go up to here, but there's no cap. So we actually need another point there. So I'm actually going to, let's see, I think the easiest way to do that would be just do a tiny little knife right there. Grab that guy, zero it out, and now it's pulling the center. And now we actually can have a little bit of control over like the way this is curving, because you know how like the liquid...
meniscus, bro.
Yep, exactly. There we get that little curve in there.
Yo, meniscus.
And then we get the surface tension, so this actually is going to curve up that little bit. Let's level it down.
Mm-hmm.
But we could level it off and we can have it even go down there. But I think maybe just up a little bit there, so you get a little bit of a curve to it. So and we can
stick to the sides too.
But right now you see that the spline looks really good, but the actual geometry is cutting off really hard right there. So we could go back to our spline and we can start cranking up our subdivisions until we start getting that curve back in there. Let's see. Okay, so there's that. We get the nice curve. Honestly, I almost want to drop that back down, and let's just throw that guy in the hypernerve as well. Get super smooth.
Nice.
So, yeah, there we go. Let's make sure the center point is good, which it is, and that's why I kept zeroing everything out, because I've got this point, I said be at 0 on X, it is exactly at 0 on X. So anyway, that should be your liquid. There's your cup. There's your saucer. Let's get the handle. There it is. And there's the dead one, so I'm going to go ahead and save this as cup and save it as cup 2 so you can take over.
Oh, gosh. All right, now you got me sweating. What I think I should have done is went and turned my computer on to render with Team Render. Chris's, Nick's, Mac Mini. Yeah, so here's the thing. This machine is 4 cores. So if that works, Chris, I just want to see. So let's just go ahead and start doing some tests. I may have to run out and turn on my machine. So I'm going to create the same material for the cup and the saucer and a different material for the liquid. I'm going to make the liquid just literally a luminant, just color, just start seeing some refraction, stuff like that in our glass. For our glass texture, we're going to turn off color all the way. We're going to turn on transparency. We're going to pull back our brightness on our transparency just a little. And we're going to add some refraction. I think glass is like 1.3 or is it 3?
Oh, it's 1.52.
5.2. There you go. Thank you, Chris. The refractive index of glass is right there. And we hit render. And now our glass is clear. We have all this specular crap that we don't want right now. We want to turn off our default light and hit render and just use the glass and it's like luminant T right here to start to see what we're up to. Now
I wouldn't drink that.
Don't you think you'd be like a superhero or something? Now, here's how I would approach it. This whole thing, you can see there's, lights and daylight and stuff around it. So the first thing we want to do is make our table. So we can make our plane and
the cup
scale
is
this.
huge. If you want to scale the whole thing down, throw in the null and scale down.
Actually, that will help with our depth of field as well when we get there. So we can bring all this, you're saying, in here. And then I could scale this way down, make it cup-sized. I may have to bring that back up a little bit for a plane. So let's go ahead and do that.
That's the ticket.
I might do it. If you let something go down like that, when it's transparent, you can get some weird effects. You basically can see through the floor at that point, so you don't want it to intersect. But let's create another material. Let's just make it white. And let's talk about how this is shot, right? So if this is a photo, it looks like it might be it says Teacup 3D, so we see that it's 3D. But if this was a photo, we would have used a more zoomed in lens, and we know that because the teacup here is almost exactly the same size as the teacup behind it. So anytime you see less parallax and less distance scale between two objects that you know are in front of each other, you'll know that you're a more zoomed in lens. So in that case, we can grab our camera and do something more like 100 millimeters or something like that. So let's go to 100 and let's turn our camera on. You can see we zoom way in, but now we can pull out and kind of set up this shot here that's kind of like halfway, kind of seeing all parts of it. So let's also set up our output so that we're not rendering too many pixels here, so that we could just get real basically down to it. I know we're going to use the physical render because we're going to use a lot of reflectance and new stuff like that. So let's just go ahead and render. I'm going to set this to 100%, and we're just going to check our frames here, and we see what we get. So already we're getting some nice transparent effects here with our liquid. Our glass is looking nice, but obviously we have nothing around the scene. So this is where we could grab HDRI Studio, is where I would start with just some basic studio lighting, and we're going to bring this into our cup scene. I'm just going to copy and paste that rig right in. We could probably use the floor here. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm actually going to remove the plane. It's probably what I should have done in the first place. But now what's nice is we get some more reflections. We get other things to refract, stuff like that. Right now we just have the floor coming in. We have our tea. Our floor is, kind of too bright, and there's really no reflections either on this. We have our basic first reflection, but not a ton of other stuff. The other thing you see is you're going to see some depth of field. You're going to see this kind of blue casting and blue tone. But right now I'm worried about this. How do I get all this nice little detail on this rim, all the way around the cup, on our liquid, on our tea? The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to first of all set up our reflection on our liquid. Okay, so this will be a basic Beckman, and turn on reflectance, and turn on your Fresnel shader, and go through this. So this is going to be a lot of trial and error. This render, frankly, is beautiful. I don't even know if I'm capable of this type of rendering, but we're going to get as close as we can, because that's what we do. That's what we do here at SGSG. Chris, if I wanted to add a little bit more geometry, where would I do that? I would do that in the subdivision?
Yeah, just increase that by one. I was seeing that too.
I may just do that. So that
the cup, and then just increase it to 3.3.
3.3?
Yeah.
So that might give us a little bit cleaner transition there on this handle. So let's see what that did. Yep. So already looking nicer. No GI, nothing going on right now. It's just reflections, and it's just the cup, and it's just all this basic stuff. We also don't have reflections on our glass. So right now we just have our specular, which basically is off because we don't have a light in here. I'm going to remove that as well. I'll leave it in for now. But I am going to add reflection to our entire cup and just do another render and see what we get. Now all these reflections and stuff kind of get a little flat because of our floor and our studio rig. So I'm going to do a couple things. First of all, I think our studio rig is just way too big. So first thing you want to do is make sure your floor isn't too big. You only really just need it for the camera. Okay, so you need it for the camera and your reflections. And that allows more of the lights to come in as well. Other things we could do is, we'll get to that in a minute. So we have our floor change, but I also want to make it darker, right? I want to start to introduce these like blue tones into it as well, and just kind of darken things as they go out. That might be a little much, but that's going to give us variation on our handle and against the floor. It's going to give us different colors as things start to refract and reflect and just go crazy. Okay, so now we have our handle, we have our T, but obviously we don't want our T to like be totally bright like that. We want to, I'm actually going to use a gradient to fake a little bit of that kind of orange to yellow he has going on.
You got to put some absorption in there. That's where you get those transitions happening.
That is true. Oh, yeah. You know what? Thank you, Chris. I'm going to try that. So in our transparency on our T layer here, we can crank up our absorption color. And our absorption color could be like this brighter orangey yellow. And it's going to absorb after like 50 centimeters, let's say.
Ooh, and so you should have some refraction. 1.33 maybe.
And refraction. Thank you, Chris. And that's going to help us go back to our camera. Let's do another render. This is going to start to give our T kind of more of a transparent thing. Now, the reason I was going to wait a little bit on transparency, which I think we still should a little bit, is it eventually will just be a render hit. You can see we're going nuts. So, in fact, let's talk about quickly some physical render settings we could do to speed this up. First of all, options, reflection depth. Let's go to 2. Let's drop them down. Physical rendering, I'm going to go to fixed. I'm going to go to 0. Just 0 this out. Dude, done. Check out how much faster this will render and obviously how much more grainy this is. But now we're going to get down to the point of this T a lot faster. So now we have, we're missing a lot of the color.
You got to notice your absorption distance. Our cup is so tiny that 50 is too big. Like you want to drop that down to like 2 or something.
Okay, so maybe the color might have nothing to do with it. Let's keep that there. Let's try our absorption distance again. See what we get. Already I see more red in our T. That's looking good.
And what's great about that, I'm going to take the mouse for a split second.
Yep.
Like I just love the transition you get right here on the edge when it gets real thin. Like you start transitioning through it and the color goes away a little bit. Like that's what absorption is good for.
That's gorgeous. Now, all the color, though, it seems like it's coming from the absorption color.
That's all of it, yeah.
Which should be a brighter color. So I'm hoping it's actually more of a red in general, but then it absorbs to a brighter.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's going to be possible.
You might actually want your absorption color, or go to more like 3 or 4. Like the smaller is going to make it all deeper colored. The larger it is, then only the thickest parts will get the deep color.
Right. So see how there's these like it's almost refraction kind of like light play that's going on down here and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We are missing a bit of that, which could be. How could we approach that?
Make your absorption distance bigger, like 4 or 5 to start out, and right now it's kind of an additive process. So now I think you're adding that yellow. Or a multiplier, so you're multiplying that yellow on the orange, which is really giving you the red. That orange color you've made the top, I think, is really sucking out the color now.
Gotcha. Well, this is that's pretty. The reflection of that table is still very white. It's too reflective-y on the front edge. But I think we're getting somewhere on the rest of it. I'm going to talk about total internal reflections, which I think we have.
Exit reflections.
Exit reflections.
Faking.
So let's turn those off, do another render, and we'll get back to the liquid. I think that might be a rabbit hole if we get into it. But let's get the rest of it as clean as possible, and then we'll tweak that red T color. Okay, so already we lost some of that too brightness right there. So that's a lot darker, more contrast in that. Feeling that better already. Our T is good. That's good. Let's talk about. I don't think we should use real GI, although it might get real fun real fast.
I mean, HDRs are good, but wouldn't GI not really show up at all?
Yeah, there's enough little detail here where like the way that let's talk about it this way. In the studio rig. The built-in studio, let's shrink our radius down. Built-in studio has 3 softboxes, has some good detail in it, but there's not a ton of detail to bounce around. And I'm going to cheat a little bit too and grab a series of softboxes and rotate this around. So this is going to give us a little bit more detail, and it's going to allow us to kind of see some color move into the scene. And this may work, it may not. Already our that too bright reflection is like toned down. I like some of the tones we're getting on that orange and blue that's popping up there already. digging it. But ultimately, this might not be a studio shot as much as it is a outdoor kind of like real kitchen scene kind of shot. Because all this black stuff, I like the contrast of it, but ultimately that's what's making it feel more like, that could be the reflection depth as well. We could, as we turn up our reflection depth, that's going to show. So that might be a last minute thing that we do. So let's just compare the one and the other one.
Yeah, I almost feel like in the render, in the reference, like this, like an outdoor patio or something. Like,
I thought I set that to 0, but we're setting everything to 0 just to get stuff as fast as possible. But I think you're right, Chris. We're gonna have more of an outdoor situation. I'm gonna do this one more time with our numbers cranked all the way down. Bear with us. We have half the cores shut off on this machine, so that we can render out of this box. But let's try like more of an outdoor one just to check. I don't think I've really shown these, but I shot a ton of 360s on my road trip, and I have a bunch of HDRs that I kind of fake built out of them. And I guess I won't go into those right now, but this is a gazebo shot. So let's wait for this to update here real quick. This is a gazebo. The top of it is all like a gazebo, but then looking outside of it, it's all this like light data that we picked up and have from outside. So it's kind of sunset in, what does it say? San Diego? No, where was it? Santa Fe? Santa Fe. Okay, I guess those are two different states. But let's do a render now and see if that detail helps kind of pull out some of the top parts. I don't like the way that the gazebo top is pulling into that one, and I'm afraid we're gonna go with Grand Canyon because there's some nice colors in this one.
Tea at the Grand Canyon.
It's tea at the Grand Canyon. Now check out some of these colors. We have some nice kind of sunset-y colors over here on the edges. So let's do a render now. See what we get. So we're just kind of finding the reflections that look nice on this. Really low res, so we could go over and over again. But already, I think we're getting some nice stuff here. It's a little dark. We might be able to just crank it up a little bit. That could be a thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is the background is showing up in our actual refraction. So instead of what I want to happen, which is, let's hit render. What I want to happen is for the Grand Canyon to show up in the refraction. But right now you can see it's just like this flat color. This is the studio, and this is okay. We could do that, but we can change that by either adding the background to the scene, or what's another way we could do that? So we can take our HDR studio, we can open it up, say visible floor, reflection sky, and we want to turn off. Oh, here we go.
It's not seen by transparency or refraction. I think that's what you want right there.
That is right. Seen by transparency, seen by refraction. So now the sky should show up in the refraction and not the background, which might work, it might not.
Certainly blinging it.
Certainly more blingy, but we're also staring straight at it. So Let's go back up to our top bit and see how this comes in.
Ooh.
Like the refraction, the colors, could be a little too bright now. Could be a couple things. I did crank up the brightness a little bit, but I think the colors and all this stuff that's refracting through it is starting to look really nice. It's not bad. It's not bad. The floor itself, I want it to reflect the sky as well. So I'm going to go to the floor controls. I'm going to add the HDRI reflection, which is going to reflect the sky, and I'm going to blur the floor a little bit. So now what we're going to get is, instead of just that flat colored floor, it's going to start to reflect the colors around the scene, give us a little bit more realistic feel to it. kind of a subtle effect, but you can see now it's not just the flat colors. We're starting to get a little bit more. I'm just going to turn up our reflection a little bit more. Not crazy on it. But now let's set up our scene, get our depth of field set up so that we can do our final tweaks on our color on everything. So, Chris, you're saying that orange... How does orange and yellow make red? You know what I'm saying? Where's that coming
They
from?
multiply. It's darkening it. And it's the thickness here. We want to make this as thin and just a hint of yellow and see what that does.
I mean, where's that coming from?
Well, try rendering now. You might be pretty good now.
But I think it'd be like a little watery right now.
Yeah. Well, then now start adding in your yellow, like almost as pure yellow as you can, just in the absorption.
Just in here.
No, but just to stay near white. It's a little green right now. Get into that warm territory.
Like this?
Yeah, but it's close to, and a little bit will very quickly yank you out of yellow. So you want to be right there in the yellow world. Yeah, okay, now we're talking. It's because you got to think of it that's almost one layer of it, but we're looking through an entire volume of it.
Ooh.
So okay, now we're starting to talk. So if you add a little bit more red and actually don't change that. That's pretty good. Let's drop our absorption distance down to 2 or something. 1 or 2.
Oh god.
And now you see right away, I made it redder. But now we're transitioning from yellow, from orange to yellow. So now make it 1 or even 0.5, and we should really start picking the colors out of it.
Oh yeah, dude. So just the difference between darker, and now it's getting thinner, thicker. Keep going.
And that's what I meant. The colors have to be so subtle on here. Just that little yellow and a little bit in the orange range. And there, now we're talking about it. Now we got our sunset tea.
Now we got it. Oh my gosh. Okay. We're good now. I think we got this. So let's start to set this up. I think by adding the first of all, by turning this off. And let's see here. We're turning our preview off, and we're taking our teacup, and we're putting another one in the background.
Rotate it a little bit.
And we're going to rotate it so it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we're going to set up our kind of camera. And this one's more of a square, more tall. So we could do that too. Sure. Let's just do square. Let's go 300 by 400.
You got D-lock.
Thank you. And now we can crop in on this one. Kind of get the tight crop. And there's also this canting thing going on here, which I dig, which we could just tilt, right? If you ever want that, you just grab your Z, go wonk. There you go. Can't do that. And let's just do a render here and see what we're getting frame-wise, see what the sense of the composition is, all this stuff, right? Control Tab, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I'm way off. So I'm cropping too tight. This is where, I always forget what this is.
I think Alt-V.
Alt-V.
I think.
Alt-V brings up your viewport settings. Thank you, Chris. Where would I be without you? Border color, crank it up, right? We want to see what our scene looks like. Okay, so we can kind of play with our crop a little bit and get more of a sense of our scene like that. Do another render. And now we're getting our cup. Thank you, Chris. Our cup and our background, and look, all the refraction here is being helped by all this stuff. I also want to brighten our background up. This is actually dark to bright a little bit more. And this transparency, I guess there's not really reflection on the floor, but there is a little bit. So instead of using that floor straight up, the way I'm gonna cheat it is to use a different floor. So here's how I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take our HDR rig, just turn off the floor completely, because what I want it to do is, what am I doing? Plane, right? I want to turn our plane back on. Got to scale this up. Scale it up. and I want our custom floor material on it because I want to pick up some of those reflections. But I also, this is something we need to add, Chris, anyway, is we're not going to be able to use the new reflectance with the HDR rig because we don't have access to, boom, right there, Beckman, right? This is what we want. We want blurry reflections on this ground, and that's going to give us all the pop-up stuff. So reflectance, let's add Fresnel. Let's add blur, first of all. But also let's add Fresnel. There we go. And this floor is also just going to be luminant. I'm just going to cheat it a little bit and just keep it a little bit bright. So here comes the floor. Here comes the color. I'm just going to see what that looks like. So now we're getting more realistic reflections and refractions because we're not dealing with the floor background. We're getting the blurry floor. We're getting all the stuff from the background, and we're also going to get for free all the refractions and everything from the drink. So I'm also, because we don't really have lights in this scene, going to cheat the drink. Okay, we're going to do that by clearing this out, going back to our bright orange color here, and seeing that. Letting some of that color come in and light the scene. So total cheats here. You don't always have to allow global illumination to light your scene. Look at what we have now. It's a little heavy. We could bump that back. But now we're actually getting real brightness in our scene. We're getting nice reflections here. I'm missing seeing under the saucer, like in the reference.
I feel like our overall brightness is a little dim.
Little dim. Well, I think right now, whenever I see something that looks good visually, but might be overall dark, I never change it in cinema, right? Because right now we have everything balanced. We have the reflections balanced with the refraction, with the color of our tea, with the everything. If you just globally want something brighter, my instinct is to do it later, is to just brighten it, like Photoshop style. For this, my concern is like getting the ratios right. Things like the shadow between here and the top. That's the stuff that starts to freak me out. This luminance is totally killing us.
Yeah. Well, without color, you can't get shadow from the cup or liquid.
Right. So I think let's get the balance right, and then we could crank it all at once. Because what I don't want to do is keep fighting every time I change my brightness. Now we got darkness. That's good. Now we got darkness. So, you know what, Chris? It might be at the point where we want to think about GI, Like we have all this stuff here. Do we just see what happens?
Maybe. I mean, at this point, I'd put a light and some shadow, but I don't know what GI is going to do, but that's not my area of expertise.
It could help. I think for AskGSG, it's going to be just a lot of render time. But for me, the overall, like, here's what I'm getting at. If we go to filter and we turn on our filter, we can go to our exposure and start to like dial up our exposure and our gamma and really see like some drastic color changes, right? We could rotate our HDR. Let's go grab it and just spin it kind of randomly and see like what kind of different reflections we get, especially off the floor. So that we have like a brighter, nice little thing here. That's like a little too bright. I kind of liked it how it was before, but this looks better, but now same thing. We could just toggle it. So like overall dark for sure, but we could just brighten and see what that feels like. Mm-hmm. We could say, our gamma's a little, I'm going to leave this at 1. Just play with our exposure a little bit and see we could get a lot of that detail back just by cranking it. In our floor, I'm also going to add just a regular layer of reflection just to get like a pure reflection off of like the top of the piece of glass kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Same thing, add some Fresnel. This one I'm going to tone way back. That's funny. Whoa.
Yeah, so click off the tab. Or click transparency and then back to reflectance. It's a weird bug.
It bugged out on me. Okay. This is not roughness. I'm just going to tone down that reflection in general. No specular, obviously, but that's really not showing up. Let's go ahead and do that again. And again, we see these black pieces in our glass. This is where our reflection depth might do the trick. So let's go to 1 and show off the real problem. See how much more black there is in 1. As we go up, we're going to refract more and more and more, and it's going to give us none of that black. The other way to do it, and sometimes I forget where this is, Chris, maybe you can help me. You can actually pick the color of that. You can actually pick the color of...
the color of the black.
Of the black.
I actually don't know where that is.
Do you remember where that is?
I know you can do it. I don't remember where.
So I'm going to go to physical render and maybe hop around in here. And
it's not going to be in here. It's got to be, if it's not under options, I almost feel like it'd be in the material.
It's not, I don't think it's in the material. Maybe it is. Transparency, absorption color.
No, I
blurry,
mean, maybe under like illumination or editor or something. I don't know.
Roughness, layer sampling, exit color. Boom, you did it. So, okay, so here, this is a great trick. The exit colors, he still has some, but that could be just black in the thing itself. But check out how much less black there is. We could just pick our color and say, I mean, crap, we could pick our exit color to be orange, right? Now, when we render, those holes are the orange of the liquid instead of black. Boom. Right? Yep. Pretty cool. Except we have too low of an exit color because our shadow depth, reflection depth is too low. So let's go to 2. Now we're starting to get those oranges back in for free. Look, now we have more on the bottom. Not so much that it's ridiculous, but it's coming in. Let's go to 3. Less and less and less as we go down. But we're getting more and more and more of that refractance in there and getting some weird colors, right? So kind of interesting, maybe a little heavy, right? But we can dial that in. Thanks for reminding me that that's where that is. So reflectance, transparency, exit color. Not quite so neon. Pretty cool. So this must actually be the Grand Canyon. So that is refracting, the sky and everything around it. And I know we're getting close to the end here, but we can just try some random ones, right? We can go try a scene from. I don't have an HDR for that one. We can go to Park City. Let's go to Park City. There's a lot of mountains, a lot of gondolas around you. You got all this stuff, and let's also angle it the right way. So let's go to our HDR Studio Rig. Let's turn our preview on and make sure that when we see the background, that the background is as kind of clear as possible. So there we go. Still a little dark, but not bad. We got some nice reflections here. We got some different reflections on the floor here. Not my favorite one. We could check this one. I kind of like the way that one was angled. Undo. So we can actually just go like this, and we can undo. Does this undo?
It should. There you go.
Boom. Grand Canyon. Do a render. Make sure we're okay. Not bad. Now the one thing we could do is just take the brightness of the whole scene and just kind of kick it up a little bit. That hopefully will brighten up our shadows down here just a little. But I kind of like the contrast in there.
Yeah.
Could be a camera angle thing. Just start playing with stuff. When you're using a physical render, there's sometimes, all your cheats go away because it's based on what's around it. It's hard to turn things on and off. So yeah, at any rate, this is close. You can see we're still very grainy because we're rendering so fast.
Did you do depth? Or is there depth in the reference?
Yep. Let's go ahead and add our depth of field and see how clean all of theirs is. It almost has a beard color to it. I almost want to...
I don't like the magic luminance.
You don't like my magic luminance? I'll dial it in half for you because I feel like it's adding a lot of...
I like that automatically so much better.
A lot of brightness to the scene.
But it makes it look like some magic potion.
I love magic. Okay, that also makes our orange too bright. Our fake exit orange. So let's go ahead and change that. And we can actually just go ahead and color pick one of those darker colors and see what that looks like. I might kick it back up to the orange. That's not bad actually. It's a good color out there. What do you think, Chris? Better than
definitely better.
Better than the potion. You want me to try it again? Try knocking it down again. Luminance. Go half again. Oh no. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think at the end, once we crank it all back up, because that's how dark we're rendering, by the way. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows. This is how we're going to crank it back up. So let's go back to our regular render. In fact, let's keep our filter on just for now and know that we could fix that later. Let's totally get our composition totally locked, which right now we have wireframes. Can I see some shading? I guess we don't have a fake light, so that probably isn't helping. Everything's also transparent and all that stuff. So when I do that, I just go to, where do I go to see stuff? Usually it's lines, but I think...
There you can turn off transparency. Or,
yeah, where is that?
I'm not sure. Oh,
Filter?
under options.
Options?
There's transparency, but it says it's off. Right?
Oh, textures is what I turn off. That's what I do. I just turn off textures altogether. Just get my composition together and go like, okay, what's visible, what's not? Like, let's officially get down to business here. So we could set up our final render and look at the feel of it. See like, oh, maybe the camera is negative 18 instead of that far over, and get a little bit of both here. We can see the bottoms. Okay, let's do like our composition render, and then set up our depth of field and get going. Good. I think we're okay. I like that highlight. I want to tone it down, but we'll do that in post. So, good. We're good. Let's do depth of field. Camera. Seen this a few times, I'm sure, if you watched SGSG. Focus distance. Pick it. Like, look, check the reference. It's basically everything in here is in focus. You know, I think that's a photoshopped fake blurry one in the background. If I were to take my guess, I would say he took this one, copied it, blurred it. The way faster way to do it, especially when a client is yelling at you, you want to do that. So let's instead do it the hard way. Set up our depth of field right on the kind of edge of this rim here. And also set our camera depth of field to 1. Let's go to physical render and go to depth of field, turn it on, do a render, and see what we get. So we're going to get a lot of stuff that's out of focus. We're going to get some nice depth of field, though. Looking good. Too much depth of field, we could turn up our f-stop. As the f-stop goes up, you're going to get half the depth of field for every doubling of that. I think that's the math of it. So at a certain point, you're going to have to go to 4. You're going to go to 8. Maybe still too much. Let's try 4. Now that we have a scene that's in scale, we're actually using real f-stops instead of like the fake ones we usually do, like 0.2 and stuff like that.
That's looking pretty good.
That's looking good. I think we're going to go with that. Let's go ahead and this is the actual size, right? Now let's talk about quickly getting to a good sense of a good settings for your physical render. I zeroed everything out mostly so I could just start cranking numbers up. So I can go to 3, okay? I'm going to use fixed. I've had good luck with fixed and depth of field. So I'm going to crank it up and start to see. You're going to see it's going to double the render every time you crank that number up by 1. It's a doubling of the samples. It's a doubling of the render. It's doubling of everything. This isn't looking so bad. I want to test team render, but I kind of don't want to break anything. I also want to save this.
I was going to say, save time.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and save this as cut 3. Cool. I hurt my feelings. Like, I think ours is looking really good, but every time I look at his, it hurts my feelings because his is so nice. It really is beautiful.
I feel like there's a really bright overhead light in his, or like a really bright sky.
That could help too. That's something we could just straight up add, right? If we just grabbed a softbox or whatever and just threw it up in the thing and had a little half studio, half half light kit thing, like we could go see what that does. I know we're running long, but just to frame it a little bit, we could take our softbox, just kind of give it some space here. And in this case, I don't want it. Let's see what it looks like as a real light. Let's just see what it does to our scene. I'm going to crank our... What I like about this is I could just zero this out again and get a render. So that's not bad. It's a little grainy. I think our final render is going to have to be cranked up settings-wise a little bit higher. But I'm going to do another one, Chris, with your light that you think we need, which
Holy cow.
I don't mind that idea at
like
all.
Look how bright that made the T.
Holy crap.
And now the light is going orange through there, and it's hitting the ground.
Dude, high five, bro. Holy crap. Dude, look at this. Why am I even doing this? You should be doing this. Look at this. Boom, boom, boom.
See? Don't need no luminance.
What the hey, dog? I don't want to touch anything. I think that's gorgeous. I mean, I might want to just make it bigger. And rounder. I want to make it round so it's not a square one. Other than that, I think we got it. Let's see if this circular one helps with some of these shadows up top or some of the refraction.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little too bright now. Chris, nice work. Let's see what this does to our rear one. I think it looks pretty good. Got good shadows, got good reflection, got good stuff on the floor. That T, dude, you saved my butt with all the T like thicknesses and all that. And I really kind of dig this shadow.
Yeah, we're getting a really nice gradient on there.
This like blingy bling.
Super dark to bling.
All right, so let's tempt fate here and go to our preferences. And I'm going to. We have 8 cores, so that's how many threads? That's 16 threads. Is that right? I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna tempt fate and go to half, which might be 8.
I'm monitoring.
Monitor our stream here. Monitor our CPU is cranked to 100, which is not what we want. But if we drop, we will be right back. That does render much faster. We're gonna set up our settings just so we don't lose our settings here, or just so we're not rendering more than we need to. I'm just going to go ahead and crank these numbers, and you're going to see going from 0 to 4 is really going to it's going to take at least a minute or two for this render. Might be a good time to talk about reflectance in general. This fixed way of doing things is a little brute force. There are other ways to get more into the details with adaptive, but what I've found is as soon as you're messing with depth of field, that essentially you do want every pixel to be treated the same, because there's depth of field like everywhere in the scene, especially with shallow depth of field. So I've had better luck just going to fixed and starting to move these sampling subdivisions up. Now we can also have blurriness subdivisions. We could move separately. We could change the shadow subdivisions separately. Subsurface scattering, obviously, we could do all this stuff. But just getting a good basic number is kind of the way I like to start with things. Is doing that. This is looking great. Thanks for that light idea, Chris. That was key, bro. That was key. You can see our depth of field still going to be a little bit grainy at this res, at these physical render settings. But there's no cheating physical render. I tell you, I've spent a lot of time in here playing with these numbers, right clicking and looking at the help and asking our German friends that work on this stuff, like how's the way around this stuff. And really, the answer is it's slow. It's a beautiful render, but it's a little slow. But great results, especially for a render you get for free inside of Cinema. So one thing we can do is turn off our filter. Remember, we still have our filter on. Now, if we like our adjustments, we could just save this with the filter on it. Frankly, we could just do that. I will probably want more control. So I'm just gonna, when we save this out, I'm gonna save it original, but you can also save it out as EXR. I'm a little reluctant to let this finish rendering because I think it's gonna be another 4 minutes.
Well, we could take the lower res and do some Photoshop to it, and then let that keep going.
That's a great idea, Chris.
Stream is still live.
You're full of great ideas today. Okay, so here's our low res fuzzy version. Let's bring this into Photoshop. Save as.
Do the copy trick. Edit copy.
Wow, what?
Edit copy.
Copy.
Photoshop.
God, you're teaching me so many things today. This is why.
Paste.
I think, Chris, with you around, I would like computers more, frankly. So here we are in Photoshop. Immediately, I'm just going to grab levels, and we could play with the curves or the gamma of this whole scene and brighten it up. And then I'm also going to grab a curves on top of our levels and just start to really get a lot more contrast into our scene. The other way we could have approached it is going to our exposure, just like we did in there, and just start to crank that up. So this is really all we did in Cinema's filters is to do that. So that's actually does look pretty good. What I would have done other than the copy paste, which is going to give us like what, an 8-bit TIFF, you can export an EXR, which will have more light data and more pixel data, so that when you start doing all these settings, you won't get any banding or anything like that. So let's finish off with our curves are now too bright now that we adjusted in that way. Our shadows, I don't want them to be too dark. Overall, I'm digging the vibe of that render there. I'm trying to like squint my eyes and see how it looks. So it seems a little colorful, right? Like it's
too much color now.
Yeah, too much color. So in here we could just grab a hue saturation and just like kick back, not the whole hue, but just kick back some of the saturation, just so it's not so like neon like that.
I kind of like that neon, but
you like this one?
Wow, there, hang that on the wall.
Yo, that's some like pop art. Just tone down the vibe a little bit. And the other thing we could have done in the final render is add a vignette, a natural vignette that would help with the blurriness and all that stuff. Some chromatic aberration would help. In this case, we're just going to add a really simple gradient. And we're going to multiply that on top of it. And that's just going to give us a little bit more of a focus in the middle. That you want that to be below all of your curves and probably not your overall brightness, because this is kind of the exposure of the film. But that'll give us our focus a little bit more on the colors and stuff that we want to see here. And this will allow us to then kind of start to push up some of these colors again. As always, playing with some of your colors channels and messing around with that can give you more of a tone. Bringing your shadows into a little bit more blue and pulling a little bit of blue out of your highlights gives a little bit more of a smoother look to it. And let's check our render. Let's see how close we are. Whoa,
it's done.
I talked for long enough, Chris. So, okay, edit, copy, paste, and just got to move it to the bottom.
Bink.
And I tell you, buddy, that's not so bad.
I'm too bad.
More happy with that. So here's the original render. Okay, this is what came out of Cinema. And again, I think you're right. It was too dark, but we can use once. I kind of want to reiterate this because I think it's a thing I fall into a lot too, which is like more light. But if the ratios between things look good, like the contrast between the darkness here and the brightness here and the brightness and the darkness, and like your ratios are looking good, especially with transparency. I always hate to like add too much other stuff, so I just rely on Photoshop or After Effects to like bling it up. One more pass with higher settings, I think, for our depth of field, and we're going somewhere. But that might be it for us.
That should do it.
All right, thanks again for watching, everybody. If you followed along with us during that tutorial, please post below what you made. We'd love to see your render, and please help everyone else. The best part about Cinema 4D and this motion graphics community is the community. So be sure to interact in the comments below. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Intro to Cinema 4D series. It's on our website. You can check in the description below. And please make sure to look for much more from us on YouTube, on our website in the near future. Until then, I hope you're having a wonderful time learning all this stuff. We've had a fun time making it, and we'll see you in another video really soon. Bye, everybody. It's corn. It's a corn statue. Cream of the Crop Award. Get it? Huh?